All right, so we have been working on proportional relationships, and we started working on how to model percents. And we are going to move on today with writing percent equations. And we're going to start out fairly simple with it. And before we get into that, we are going to review constant and proportionality, because a percent is really a proportion. So we're going to do that review first, and then we'll get into percent equations. So let me share. And it doesn't want to share. All right. So remember that constant proportionality is just the same as our unit rate. And we find the constant proportionality by taking our y value divided by our x. So we have the table on the left, and we have the price of shoes at a regular department store and the price of shoes at the shoe superstore. And we can see that a regular department store, on our first line, they're $20. And that $20 pair of shoes at the superstore is $16. So we're going to find the constant of proportionality. And we would say this is our x, this is our y. So I'm going to take my y divided by my x. 16 is my y. 20 is my x. And when I divide 16 by 20, I'm going to get a decimal. And what decimal do I get? When we divide 16 by 20, what decimal do we get? We get 0.8. Okay. So that means my constant proportionality, my R, is 0.8. Now, what this means is this tells me that the shoe superstore if we're thinking in terms of money, charges 80% less than the department store. Now, how do I know it's 80%? How do I know 0.8 is 80%? Okay, it's in the tenths. So if I were to put this, or if I were to multiply this times 100, because remember 100% is like our whole, I would move my decimal 2 times and have a 0 here in this empty space that I created. So that would be 80%. Ooh. My percent symbol looks really wonky today. So now I can take this, my R, and I can write a percent equation to represent the table here. And we've used X and Y, but you may see other variables used. So let's say that we use D for department store and S for superstore. So in our equation for proportions, we would say y equals rx, and we're going to change y to s just because we want to make it represent the superstore. R, we just found, is 0.8, And X, we're actually going to change to D to stand for department store. So this equation tells me that the superstore is 0.8 times the price of the department store. Does that all sound familiar from the last couple weeks? Finding the equation and writing it. All right. And now you can use this to solve. So our equation is S equals 0.8D. And this question wants to know, what is the superstore price for a pair of shoes that's $28 at the department store? And that 28 is going to go where D is, because D is department store. So really, we're looking for what is 80%, if that 0.8 is 80% of 28. So S equals, and if I do 0.8 times 28, I'm going to get what number? What is 0.8 times 28? I'm gonna double check. 0.8 times 28. So you get, like Jada put in the chat there, and Monica, $22.40, since we're talking about money. So a pair of shoes that is $28 at the department store is only going to be $22.40 at the superstore. Any questions about that problem? Okay. I'm going to write my equation down again. S equals 0.8D. What is the department store price for a pair of shoes that is $15 at the superstore? So now, instead of substituting a number for D in our equation, we're going to substitute 15 in for S. My board is off right now. So I'm going to rewrite 15 equals 0.8D. And remember that 0.8D means we're taking 0.8 times whatever number D represents. So we have to do the opposite operation. So if we're multiplying, what is the opposite of multiplication? Divide. And since we're doing proportions, we have to keep things equal and balanced. So what is 15 divided by 0.8? $18.75. So for a pair of shoes that is $18.75 at the department store, it is going to be $15 at the superstore. Any questions about that one? So when we are doing percent equations, we have to decide first, are we doing a markup, a markdown, or a percent of? Because that's going to help us figure out how to get to the answer. We are going to add or subtract to or from 100 if needed. So if it is a markup, we're going to have to add to our 100% in order to find the answer. If it's a markdown, we're going to subtract from 100%. This is important. Number 3, convert to a decimal. So if your R is written as 8/10, we are going to change that to a decimal. 8/10 as a decimal is 0.8 or 0.8. Okay, it is going to make your life so much easier. So that's why we did the, or if you haven't done your warm-up yet, that's why I have that practice at the bottom of the warm-up, how to convert from a percent to a decimal to a fraction. Okay, and then we're going to multiply. So let's do a couple of practice problems. In a survey of 45 students, so my whole is 45 students, 20% said they stay up past 10 p.m. How many students stay up past 10 p.m.? So with this problem, it's telling me the whole, and it's telling me 20% stay up past 10 p.m. So if I were going to draw that out with our models that we've been doing this week, we're looking for just this chunk right here. We want to know what that number is. So this tells me it's a percent of equation that we're going to write. And I'm going to write it as a sentence. So we want to know 20% of 45 is equal to what? So 20% of 45. I'm going to change 20% to a decimal. So this is the same as 20 over 100 because it's out of 100%, part and whole. And if I divide by 100, my decimal point goes left 2 places. So we're looking for 0.2 of tells me I'm going to multiply times and then our whole. So 0.2 times 45 is going to give me what answer? .2 times 45. So how many students stay up past 10 p.m.? 9 students. Okay, Jada, make sure that you did 0.2 times 45. I think you did 2 times 45, and that's okay. I didn't make my decimal very clear. Okay. Any questions about how I found my decimal? Okay. Any questions about how we found the answer? Let's look at the next one. The dinner bill came to $25, and I'm going to leave a 15% tip. What is the total cost? So total cost tells me it's going to be a percent increase because it's not just how much I paid. It's not just the tip that I left. It is everything combined together. So again, if I were to draw this out as a model, here's my 0, 25, 100. We know we're paying $25, but I also have this extra 15% that I'm going to add. So I'm going to add 15 to 100, and that gives me 115%. Now I'm going to write this as a sentence. So we want 115% of 25. What is 115% as a decimal? What is 115% as a decimal? Right, 1.15, because we moved our decimal point 2 places. So we're going to take 1.15 of means we're multiplying 25. So what is 100 or 1.15 times 25? $28.75. Any questions about that one? How I got the 115%, how we got our answer. Okay. Oh. All right, last one. And Samuel, I just saw that you signed on, so good morning, since I haven't said good morning to you yet. A video game is regularly priced $50, but is on sale for 30% off. What is the price after the discount? So is this one going to be a percent of, a percent increase, or a percent decrease? Right, it's a percent decrease because it says after the discount. So after the discount tells me we're going to be subtracting from 100%. Draw my model. So it's originally $50, which is 100%, but we're taking 30% off. So like this chunk right here is what we are subtracting from the cost. 30% tells me what percentage of the cost I'm paying. So if I subtract 30 from 100, what percent do I get? So 100% minus 30% gives me 70%. And now I can write my sentence for my equation. So we want to know 70% of the original cost, which is 50. I'm going to change 70 to a decimal. And when I change 70% to a decimal, what decimal do I get? %70 as a decimal is 0.7. Of tells me I'm going to do what math operation? It's either going to be multiplication or division, so which one? Of tells us we're going to multiply. Okay, so remember when you see this word of, if it says they want to know 70% of a number, that means you're going to take the decimal times whatever that number is. And what is 0.7 times 50? $35. So that means after that 35 or that 30% discount, I'm going to pay $35 for that video game. Any questions about that? Okay. So let me stop sharing that screen. And let's go into this. All right, so you have, other than your warm-up today, you have one problem you're going to do, or one assignment you're going to do, not one problem. There is a video here to explain. I'm also going to post this recording if you want to go back and refer to it. And then you have 3 slides of work. So the first slide, you have the restaurant bill, the tip amount, and you need to figure for each one what percent this tip is of the total bill. So percent of, we're going to find what $15 is percent-wise of 80. So you're going to do your bar model. You're going to write your percent equation, and then tell me the percent for both of these problems on slide 2. Slide 3 is a little different. It says each server receives 18% gratuity. Remember, gratuity is tip on their sales. Each server has an amount of money they need to make listed in the table. So this is the amount of money servers 1, 2, and 3 want to make by the end of the night. Complete the table and calculate the amount of money each server needs, the amount of money each server needs to make that desired tip. So again, use your bar model. Remember, this is 100% of what they want to make. And they want to make 18% of their sales. Okay. Percent equation, how much money they need to have that night to make their desired tip. And then the last one, it gives you the equation. So G equals 0.15B, where G is gratuity and B is the food bill. And you need to answer the 3 questions that are here. So the first one wants to know what percent gratuity. You should be able to look at the equation and tell me that. If the food bill, so remember bill is B, so you're going to put 19 where B is and multiply. How much tip would they get? And if the waitress receives a $2.10 gratuity, how much was the bill? So you're going to be solving for B in that one. Okay. Are there any questions about your assignment for today? Okay. So like always, this will be open until 10:15. If you have questions while you are working, just you can stay on, you can